Tina, oh my goodness. It's been
I
too
know.
long.
I know.
So glad to see you. I think we can just ignore the audience and just laugh. Be
I think
fine.
so too. I think so too.
You have been so busy, doing so many things. Goodness. I don't even know where to start. So I'm going to ask you to start. Talk about what you're doing now, what that business is like, and what's going on with it.
Yes, I am very busy. And thank you so much for having me, Lena. And I say Lena because I'm from Sweden. So in Sweden, we say Lena, we don't say Lina. Yeah, whole
And
thing.
I love it.
And I have an aunt, one of my favorite aunts is Lena. So that's you're Lena. Here we are. So what's going on? LinkedIn is taking my business to a whole different level. Very exciting, very
Yes.
exciting. And I'm sure that you're doing phenomenal on LinkedIn too. What am I doing? So I'm the owner of the Folson Group, co-founder and owner. We work with New York City co-op and condo owners to increase their property values. We do that by reducing their expenses and the cost of all of their projects. So large apartment buildings in New York City. We are basically like a McKinsey and Company for New York City apartment buildings. And we go through all their line items and reduce their expenses. And it's a funny thing how we got started. Do you want me to share how we get started? Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
So my husband and I own a co-op that's an apartment inside a building in New York City. And right after the financial crisis, when there was no inflation, we got a letter that they were increasing the monthly dues by 5% for the 10th year in a row. In the letter, it didn't say for the 10th year in a row. We knew that. So we said, let's do something about this. We spoke with some neighbors. We got a group of people who felt the same way. That there's no reason. So just to back up, what happens is that expenses in an HOA or condo or co-op is supposed to only cover the expenses. So if the fees are increasing by 5%, that means that the expenses are increasing by 5%.
Wow.
There's no inflation. There's no reason for anything to increase by 5%. At the same time, so I had a finance background. I've been analyzing financial statements for years. So when I saw the financial, so we had a coup, got 5 people together. They took over the board, and so it was very exciting, very controversial.
Yeah.
Lots of people at the annual meeting took over the board. And then I looked at the financial statements to try to figure out why the expenses were increasing by 5%. So if you think about it, if you see one cost, doesn't matter which cost it is $10,000. You don't know if that's high or if it's low or if it's just normal. So I did what I knew from finance. I went out and I got the financial statements from lots of other buildings that were similar in size, etc. And I built a benchmark, which is what I used to do on Wall Street. I compare all the different expenses in all of these buildings, and then I knew if 10,000 was high, low, or normal. Then we made some phone calls, eliminated some services that were paid for not only once, twice for the same service, 2 different vendors. So we did all of this work, and we were able to save our co-op $340,000 in the first 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's over the top.
I know.
That is quite a coup.
I know.
Wow.
Yes. Thank you. It felt really good. But that was only for ourselves. So then out networking. You know how many people want to meet another financial advisor?
Mm. That many.
Yes. So instead of introducing myself as a financial advisor, I introduced myself as, hi, Hi, I'm Tina Larsson, and I helped my co-op save $340,000. And would you believe it? Most New Yorkers that I met, they said, "Can I introduce you to my board?" And that's when we said, maybe we got something here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What a
So that's
story. How fantastic. How many I know you had the number. How many co-ops and condos have you helped and like been able to make these that's a huge impact. Goodness.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Uh, We actually estimate, so right now, the maintenance in our building for our apartment is $2,000. If it had increased by that same amount, our monthly dues would be 4,000 now. Because now over time, it
Mhm.
accumulates over time. But anyways, so we work typically with 30 to 50 buildings at the same time, at any given time.
You must have a huge staff, right?
So we're consultants,
Okay.
which means that it's my husband, who's my business partner, and myself. Then we outsource everything and we bring in vendors. So we bring in an insurance broker, we bring in an elevator contractor, a window installer, a facade repair. So we bring in all of these vendors.
Mhm.
So we don't do the work, that part of the work, we don't do ourselves. We do the planning, the project management,
Mhm.
the sitting at a desk, being on the phone, hunting down contractors and making sure that they actually show up when they say that they're going to show up. So it's a little bit of it's a lot of planning, a lot of helping boards make decisions. These are very difficult decisions. To spend $1 million on any given project, it's a difficult decision to make. And they're volunteers. The boards are volunteers. They
Right.
have regular jobs. They don't have time. So we help them make decisions. We don't make decisions for them, but we help them make it easier for them to make decisions on something that they don't really know that well. Yeah.
Because most of the boards, like being in the HOA, we didn't know anything. We're just like, you want to be this? Sure. We had no idea, and that's usually how it is. It's always kind of by default or, not knowing to step up for it. So being able to help that board, they must feel much better. You must have some kind of better ROI just from the board itself for the condo and the people that live there and pay these dues as well. This has to make it a better circumstance all the way around.
Yes. And yes. And to back up, we're a little bit of, sometimes we call ourselves that we're babysitters or we're coaches
Yeah.
in effect, because there's a lot of hand holding. And very often they have a certain relationship with their property manager who takes care of certain things, right? They run the day-to-day operation and they send out the memo to the tenants. And so there's certain things that they do,
Mhm.
but the project management and the consulting part, we typically have a very close relationships with the board, and they trust us. Otherwise, they wouldn't have hired me. Yeah.
Man, that's so unique. Just so unique. Can I have that in Houston? Can I have Folsom Group in Houston? Because I think it would be really great.
And the thing is that we can do this anywhere.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we only market it in New York. We want large apartment buildings,
Mhm,
right? Those
mhm,
are the best clients for us to work in because that's our specialty. An
mhm.
HOA, like a gated community, it works slightly different. Similar, but different. And they don't have an elevator, right?
Right, right, right.
So our specialty is in buildings, apartment buildings,
Mhm.
but their physical location, it doesn't really matter. Do we have a better relationship with more vendors in New York City? Yes, we do, because this is where we have, before the pandemic, this is where we were
Mhm,
marketing. I mean, we're two
mhm.
people out networking.
Right.
That LinkedIn and Zoom has taken that to a whole different level. But can we perform our services in Houston? Absolutely.
Good to know. Good to know. We'll talk about that later. Um, so you just segued into something like really, really good is LinkedIn, LinkedIn
Yes.
and networking, and something. I mean, I'm grateful daily for, because we would have never met besides
Yeah.
LinkedIn and taken our networking class together and everything, and just you know amazing. And you have really exponentially grown your business in yourself. Talk about that. I know how excited you get, and talk about the difference, like the beginning of the track and where you are today.
Yeah. So it's I am very excited about it. So I had been talking about getting a coach, a business coach, for a few years, but I never found one that was a perfect match. And then in the beginning of 2020, I had three of my trusted friends who had hired one coach. Three of them. And I went like, if three of them in New York City hired a coach in Dallas, she's got to be pretty good, right? And this is before the pandemic, so before anybody was all virtual. So the day that they told us that we had to stay at home in March of 2020, and they told us that we had to stay home for 2 weeks, that didn't go
Right.
so well.
Yeah.
Um, and they also were talking about that we were all going to get PPP. I said to Mark, listen, we're going to get extra money that we didn't expect. We're going to sit at home, cooped up. I'm thinking I'm going to join this coaching group. So I have, it's a coaching group in Dallas. It's called Shift Co, because I was an early member. I am a co-founder, and the main coach is Terry Maxwell, and she's, I mean, I have no words for how good she is. She's
Wow.
absolutely amazing. So I've worked with her now for over 2 years with a program, and she's my private coach there. And the amount of steps, or the different steps that we have gone through, have been just changing, life changing. And it started with mindset coaching groups, and then we did some differentiation, meaning some branding. She helped us um, rebrand our website,
Hmm.
or better messaging, demand
Hmm.
generation. She very early on told me, you have to be more active on LinkedIn. And I think that that's probably how we met.
Hmm.
And I said, how do I do that? She said, you have to hire a LinkedIn coach. So I work with a business coach.
Hmm.
I ended up working with LinkedIn coach, our amazing LinkedIn coach, Joe Apfelbaum, who
Uh-huh.
is has to be named because he's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I think that that's how we have met,
Hmm.
actually.
Hmm.
And then he said, oh, you have to be on video. And here I am. I'm not very comfortable on video. So what do I do with video? So first I joined one group that I was in for a year, but then I found one improv coach who I adore. So I joined her group and hired her a year ago, and we were going through the story, the messaging, and practicing.
Yeah.
So my business coach is telling me that I have to be on a TED Talk next year. She wants to see me on a TED Talk stage in 2023.
Yeah.
You too?
You. Yes, you. Awesome.
So I spoke with Meredith, my improv coach, and she says, um, but you have to see yourself doing that. And I can't see it.
Come on,
Not
Tina.
not yet, not yet, but it will come.
Mhm.
And she said, "But do you see yourself on a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then my business coach said, "Well, then you have to set a goal for how many podcasts are you going to make." So I said, "I'm going to do 24 this year."
Wow.
You know how many
24.
I've want to know how many I've done?
Yeah.
Thir- 30.
Wow. That's fantastic. That
Yes.
is fantastic. And it's not even half a year.
I know. And I set that goal in February. Well, I
That's
had to
amazing.
throw out the number. Last year I
Yeah.
did one podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I said, so you know how when you have to set a goal, it has to be attainable. So 100 sounded like a nice round number, right? But going from 1 to 100 sounded like a little bit of overachieving, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I said, oh, two a month is 24. Let's make it 24.
Wow. That's wonderful. Look, Jason says that's awesome. I know. That
Jason.
is goals on steroids. That is wonderful. So proud of you. You are certainly driven, but you are so driven with the best energy and excitement about getting those goals accomplished. I think that's what makes a difference. Tell me, how are you getting on podcasts? What are you doing to be a guest, and how's that working?
And it's funny. Joe Apfelbaum said, first you have a strategy, and then you set up your goal, and then you tell the world about your goal. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So,
Gotta write
and
that down. Strategy,
goal,
and
and
tell the world.
then tell the world.
Love that.
Uh, and so I set this goal in February that I was going to be on 24 podcasts, right? I went on one podcast, my second podcast. I told the podcaster I wanted to be on 24 podcasts. So he has booked me on 24. He promised to book me on 20 and he booked me on 20 podcasts. But they have these really great podcast matching sites where you can set
Uh-huh.
up a profile. So you kind of have like your podcast resume up there.
Mhm.
Yeah. And one is Podbooker, one is Podmatch.io, and there are some other ones.
Mhm.
So my profile is all over the place there. So occasionally I'll just randomly get an email from someone who said, "Oh, I saw your profile and I would like for you to come and visit." And then, of course, you invited me because you're such a generous, wonderful person. And I had to say yes right away.
It's going to be a disaster when we meet together because I think they'll be like hugging, laughing, and crying at the same time. Not sure what's going to happen, but
Yeah.
it's going to be happening soon. We've got to make that happen. I know that.
Do you have
Oh,
any plans on coming to New York?
oh yeah. I don't have it booked yet, but I mean, I have my crew over there, right? We are the OG from 2020, I think.
I think so.
So yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, we can't go too much longer without not getting that in-person time, for sure.
Yeah. No. And I think that, I mean, I'm sure that I will go at Houston at some point, but I don't have any immediate plans. So that's why I was asking if you were coming to New York.
Yeah, yeah. You and Liz put the pressure on. Our sweet Liz.
Yes, who I also met during COVID and
Mhm,
also on Zoom, but
mhm,
she has had in person networking events over the last 2 years. I mean, I think that we met in person at the end of the summer of 2020. She lives down the street from me.
fantastic. That is fantastic. And
Yeah.
Joe, and you've seen so much of the crew that we've met on Evergreen with
Yes.
Joe. Man, yeah,
Yes.
I'm
And
so jealous.
I joined Joe's executives networking group.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
it's a really fantastic group. It's especially good for me because it has a very large concentration in
Uh-huh.
construction.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they have the fastest growing elevator service contract, which we're going to need for all of our clients, or
Wow.
for if they have an elevator.
Right. Right. Oh,
Yeah,
by the
so
way, we have
sorry.
elevators here in apartments in Houston, by the way.
Oh, you do.
Yeah. Just another reason for you to come to Houston. For sure.
Yes, and
Yeah.
at this growth, this company might be nationwide soon. It's tri-state for now. But
Tri-state. Which states?
tri-state is New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
Awesome. Awesome.
Mhm. I
That
guess
is
that's a
fantastic.
local term, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Mark's gonna have to hold the bag while you're out there on stage speaking all the time, huh?
We'll see. Oh, so that's the thing. So I did podcasts were in March,
Hmm.
that concentration, and then in April I started reading a book, writing a book.
Wow, that's fantastic.
But I'm still writing it. I'm not done yet. I'm
Yeah.
halfway or something done. But yeah, no, everybody's telling me you can't do a TED talk until you have a book. So now I'm writing the book. You can do a
Wow.
podcast without the book, but it would be better if I had a book. So the book
Right.
is in progress.
I would like to be surprised, but I'm just not. I just know how well when you decide, it happens. I think anybody that wants to know how to really be spot on with their goals and actually work on them needs to talk to you, besides condo and co-ops, because you have that drive and that ability to bring it together. That's probably from the project management side. You have that ability to kind of bring it together, see it, and put it out to the world, and really, really make that happen. So.
But I always want, or I mean, I don't always wonder. I mean, I have better things to think about, but and I have other roommates in my head. But uh,
I call them committees. You?
I read a book last year, and they said you have to get rid of the roommates in your head, the untethered soul. I can't remember the author,
Yeah.
but and from the whole book, that was my takeaway: the roommates in my head. So you were saying the committee. That's even
Yeah.
better. But I think for some reason I don't know if it's something I was just born with or if it's a gift, but I do very well with systems. And in retrospect, I should probably have opened McDonald's because I like when there's a script, I follow it to the T. They tell me it's due on Sunday, it will be done by Sunday. So I think that I follow processes very well, and I don't know if that's how I was born, or if I don't really know how that comes about, but it comes in handy to when I try to get stuff done, especially when working with coaches because they tell you when to do things and how to do them.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That has to make a difference for sure. Yeah.
I wish
Yeah.
that I started networking 20 years ago, and I wish that I started working with coaches much earlier. But here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. But look how far you've
This
come.
is
You just did lightning speed in the last couple of years. Just like you took the 10 years and you put it into a year and a half to two, and really propelled forward. So knowing you can do that, look how quickly you're going to get on that TED Talk stage.
Oh yes, but it's everything has to be according to the process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
So, but you
That's
will be
amazing.
hearing more about my book as I get closer, and I'm sure you will see it everywhere.
I'm sure. I'm sure. We have guests. Tina, we are acting
I
like we're talking
know.
to ourselves. Look at this. Gerald Garden style cups have no elevator list. All
No.
league power. Oh, now he says leg power. Yeah, leg power. Not always
Yep.
fun, I will tell you, on steps. Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks for tuning in.
But
Jason's one of my big fans here. He's like, it's never too late to work with a coach. Actually, that's a great point. That points right back to what you're saying. If no matter what the time period backwards that wish that had happened, certainly can get started. We know some really really good ones too, especially
yes,
for
yes.
networking, for sure. So before we go, I gotta know, you used to ride horses. What's that all about? Was that in Sweden?
Yes. Growing up. So when I started first grade in Sweden, you started back then. You started first grade when you're 7 years old, so a little later than here. So my two girlfriends in school, or the two that I got to connect with, they were horseback riding. So they went to the stable once a week and they rode their horses, and it was a little pony show there. Okay, so I said to my parents, I said, I want to ride horses. And they said, oh, okay. So my dad, he went to the horse store and he bought me the fancy outfits. So I was all cute and leather boots and the whole thing and the helmet. And then I got there and I was so afraid of horses that I cried every week that I went. But
Oh no.
I'm a very persistent person. So I cried every week for 2 entire years before I really started liking horses. Yeah, so crazy. And then by accident, the church was auctioning a farm, so my parents bought the farm and we moved to the country and I got horses. So I was riding my own horses and I competed. And I was competing in horseback riding until I was about 18 or something around there. You know, when you're 18, a lot of people, they do one sport and then they quit, and that was just me. Yeah, I get to a certain level, I went like, yeah, I can't get any better than this. The next level was very high and I went like, I don't know if I can jump a jump that high that's taller than me.
Wow. Wow.
Or maybe I get tired of it. You know how 18 is not a, yeah. So I quit. Hmm. Moved to the city and traveled the world and did all kinds of, I did hotel management and stuff. And then I ended up in New York in 1994.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow.
Hmm.
Nana,
But I
and we're real
still,
glad you're here.
thank you. But I still love horses. I love all pets and animals. And
Oh,
yeah, when I'm out biking around in Central Park, they have the horses with a carriage,
uh-huh.
and I always stop and say hello to them, and they're so cute.
Oh.
Don't tell
Oh.
Liz, she's afraid of horses.
Okay.
Sorry, Liz.
Yeah, we won't tell. That is fantastic. Well, I can't wait to come and walk around that park and see horses with you. That's going to be wonderful. You know,
Yes,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna
You
do.
are so special, so unique. I am so thankful that I got to get some time with you on here and just share what you do, because it is a specialty, but extremely helpful, and financially, um, the financial savings for these buildings and the strength of the board by being supported by Folson Group. I mean, it just, the value is unmatched, and it can be done anywhere, remember. So that's fantastic. I just want to thank you for your time. I can't wait to see you again, and I can't wait to see you in person. We might have to do this side by side at a coffee shop.
Yes, I think
So
so. With the filters.
the dang filters. I know. What in the world?
I know.
So, but thanks everybody for showing up here. Yolanda, we love Yolanda. She's so wonderful. Look, she's
Yes.
Yolanda.
Hi,
Yeah,
everyone. Hi, Jason. Hi, Yolanda.
Yolanda. Yeah, yeah. Awesome,
Hi,
awesome.
Jerry.
So good to see you. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and we'll be talking to you soon. Will you do me a favor? Go back into the chat. Make sure you put your contact information and all, and so those that get the time to actually view these, because they're usually, viewed later, they can get hold of you for referrals, whatever you need, put in there. Okay.
Okay, in the chat here.
We'll do it. Yeah. In our,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Tina, for having me. Bye,
Thank you,
everyone. Thank
Tina.
you.
Bye. Stay right there.